Young Moshe is 11 years old. His father calls him in one day and tells Moshe, I have very sad news to tell you. But unfortunately, you notice lately I'm very pale and weak. It's because I'm very sick and I don't have much more to live. I'm asking you, please, Moshe, be there and help your mom with your younger siblings. And I'm also asking you, please, when I pass away, go to the synagogue and say Kaddish for me. Moshe is obviously devastated. A few weeks later, his father passes away. And the next morning after the funeral, Moshe tells his mother, I'm going to keep my word. I'm going to go to synagogue and say Kaddish for the dad. Moshe leaves the house with his backpack, walks to synagogue. It's about a 15-minute walk or 20-minute walk. He goes into the synagogue and people see a young boy there. They say, how can we help you? And he says, yesterday my father was buried and I promised my father I'm going to say Kaddish. So there's one individual, older person, said, I'll help you say Kaddish. Moshe sits next to him, shows him how to say Kaddish. And he asks Moshe, where do you live? Moshe gives him his address. And he says, we told him he walked to synagogue today, and from here he's walking to school. The next morning, Moshe once again leaves his house and he walks down the steps, and as he's about to make the right to go to the synagogue, he noticed this individual walking. He says, we're walking to synagogue at the same time. I can walk with you. And they walk together and he talks. And he comforts Moshe. The same thing happened the next morning. He told Moshe, I live right over here, and it so happens to be by divine providence we can walk together. And so for 11 months, every single day, Moshe walked to synagogue, and this individual walked with him. Rain, snow, hot days, cold days. Moshe said this person has such a big impact on him that really was the angel that helped him through that year. Many years later, Moshe came back to town. And he said, one time, he says, you know what? I never thanked this person for walking with me. I want to go to his house and thank him. Now he's ready with a wife and a child. He said, let me bring my wife and my child along. And he calls the individual and he says, give me direction to your house, give me your address. As he starts driving to the person's house, Moshe breaks down crying. Because this was the first time Moshe realized that this individual didn't even live next to Moshe. This individual lived on the other side of the town. And every morning, he must have got dropped off 2 houses away from Moshe's house so he could walk with him. The reason why Moshe cried is that this person never told him that he is there to walk with him, to help him through this year. He made believe like this is exactly where he lives and this is the route he's taking. He was overcome with emotion to realize here was a person that took upon himself to walk 20 minutes, 25 minutes in the cold, in the snow, just to be there without taking any credit, without, so to speak, getting any benefit of getting a thank you letter or a thank you. He just did it to be there for a child that's an orphan. Wow. That's the work of angels. You know, we always like to get credit for it. We want to feel like we get something from it. And this may answer a very difficult question many people ask in this week's Torah portion. You know, in this week's Torah portion, it tells us that if you give a loan to a person that's poor, that's struggling, you're not allowed to make interest of it. You're not allowed to make money of it. That means if I can rent my car out, I can rent my house out, but money, if I give us a loan to a poor person, when it comes to business, it's something else, which we're not going to get into in this talk. There's a head to Isker, how banks do it. But here we're talking about the Torah is saying if there's a poor person that needs help and he needs a loan, you give him money, you can't take any interest. You can't get any benefit from it. Here, if I have money, I want to get benefit from it. So I'll give you the money, but give me back some extra money. No. The Torah is teaching us that sometimes when you help a person, it needs to be in a way that there's no benefit for you. The only benefit is that you're actually helping the other person. You get no financial gain from it. That is something so important for us to learn. Because unfortunately, many times we ask ourselves, before I get involved with something, what is it in it for me? Sorry. How could I benefit from it? How am I going to get credit for it, whatever it is? Here, this week's parasha tells us there got to be certain things in our life that we do it because it's the right thing, it's the things that need it, even if no one is going to give us credit or thank you or money we're going to make out of it. We're only going to do it because this is the right thing. Let's go and do it.